The sun pressed down like a branding iron over the open plains, turning every shadow into a ghost. The wind carried the dry scent of horses, dust, and gun oil. A hawk circled overhead, waiting for something to give out. Clara Duvall hung from a split-rail fence, wrists tied, lips cracked, and her body trembling in the blistering heat. The ropes had rubbed her skin raw. She hadn't screamed for hours. Her voice had burned out long before the afternoon came. When she finally whispered, it was like her last breath fighting to stay alive. Spread it open, do it with force. To a stranger, the words might have sounded broken, mad, even, but she wasn't begging for shame. She was begging for someone to cut the ropes and end her suffering. Miles away, the whisper carried to the wind until it reached a wagon creaking up a forgotten trail. At the reins was Elias Crowe, a rancher with the weight of too many years behind him. His eyes were the color of storms, his soul a worn thing wrapped in quiet. He'd just bought this land, hoping it would give him peace after losing everything that once made him a man, his home, his cattle, and his brother. But peace is a fickle thing in the West. When he saw the figure by the fence, he thought at first it was a trick of the light. Then the light moved. Elias jumped from the wagon, boots kicking dust, and cut the ropes holding her. She fell into his arms like she'd been waiting for the world to stop hurting. Her voice rasped out again, the same line, desperate and trembling. Spread it open, do it with force. Only then did he see what she meant. The ropes cut into her wrists, dry blood caked beneath. He sliced the last of them clean. He carried her inside his cabin, laid her gently on the floor, and poured water over a rag, pressing it to her burning forehead. Her breath was shallow, her strength hanging by a thread. When she opened her eyes, she whispered, "Thank you." "Who did this to you?" he asked quietly. Her gaze drifted toward the hills. "They'll find me. They always do." Elias looked out the window, the dry wind pushing dust against the panes. He'd seen evil before, the kind that left no mark except the silence that followed. And in that silence, he made a choice. He wasn't leaving her behind. By morning, Clara could stand, though her legs shook beneath her. She drank slow from a tin cup, eyes darting to the window every few seconds. Elias watched her carefully. "You don't have to be afraid here," he said. Her voice cracked. "You don't know the kind of men that's after me." He gave a slow nod. "No, but I've known their kind all my life." Outside, the heat shimmered. Inside, the quiet felt like calm before a storm. Then, faint at first, came the sound of hooves. 3 riders coming down the ridge. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. "They're here." Elias moved to the window. The riders were closing fast, dust swirling around them like a warning. The man in front rode tall, dressed in black, his presence enough to curdle blood. "Who is he?" Elias asked. "Grant Mercer," she breathed. "He's the one who did this to me." Elias's jaw tightened. The name was familiar. A land baron known for buying what he couldn't steal and taking what he couldn't buy. The riders stopped outside. A heavy voice called through the still air. "Elias Crowe, I know you're in there. Send her out." Elias froze. He'd never told them his name. He looked at Clara. "How do they know who I am?" Her eyes filled with panic. "I swear I didn't tell him, but he always finds out." The door shook on the first blow. Then the second, Mercer's voice came again. "Clara, my wife. You've run far enough." Elias raised his rifle. "Stay behind me," he said. When the door burst open, heat and dust filled the room. Mercer stepped in, sharp eyes, slow smile. "There she is," he said softly. "My runaway bride." "She ain't yours," Elias said flatly. Mercer's grin turned cruel. "Everything I touch is mine, Crowe. You'll learn that." Elias didn't move, but something in him hardened. "You remind me of a man I once knew. A thief named Grant Mercer, who murdered my brother." Mercer's eyes gleamed. "Ah, Caleb Crowe. I remember him. Stubborn man. Should have sold while he could." The world stopped turning. Elias's pulse thudded once, slow and heavy. Mercer stepped outside and smiled. "Let's settle this proper. You and me, one draw." Elias followed him out into the light. The sun burned white overhead. The air went still, holding its breath. A single heartbeat. Another. Then the flash. When the smoke cleared, Grant Mercer was on the ground, blood in the dust, gun half drawn. Elias stood still, revolver smoking. The world was silent again. Clara rushed out, eyes wide with relief and fear. "It's over," Elias said softly. But Mercer's lips twitched with a dying smile. "You think this ends with me?" he rasped. "You don't even know who owns this valley." Then he went still. For a while, the only sound was the wind brushing over the dry grass. Then came the distant echo of riders, but this time lawmen. Sheriff Dunn and his deputies rode up slow, taking in the scene. Mercer's body, Clara's bruises, Elias's calm stare. "That's Grant Mercer," Dunn said grimly. "The man's got friends in every corner of this territory." Elias told him everything. The beating, the marriage papers, the land fraud, and how Mercer had killed his brother. When Dunn looked through Mercer's coat, he found letters, maps, and deeds. The truth was worse than rumor. Mercer had been stealing land, water, and lives for years. Within days, his empire collapsed. Clara was cleared, the land restored, and justice, for once, didn't lose. Weeks passed. The cabin was rebuilt. The fields began to green after the first rain. One morning, Clara stood on the porch, her hand resting on her belly. She smiled faintly. "The baby kicked," she said. Elias looked up from the rail. He was mending. "Got a name in mind?" "If it's a boy," she said softly, "Caleb, for your brother." Elias nodded, his voice rough. "He like that." The wind moved through the valley. Calm now, almost kind. The same land that had once buried pain was giving them something new. Sometimes life takes everything from you just to show what really matters. Sometimes the road to peace runs straight through fire. And maybe that's what courage really is, not the gun you draw, but the heart that won't quit when the world says you should. So, if you'd been Elias Crowe, would you have risked it all for a stranger? Would you have drawn your gun for what's right, or ridden on by and left it to die? Take a deep breath. Let that question ride with you for a while. And if this story spoke to you, partner, give a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more tales of courage, justice, and the kind of love that survives the dust. Because out here in the Wild West, every dawn starts with a story worth remembering.